Yo, how are you doing, folks? Welcome to episode 33 of the Simpa Life Podcast with me, Simpa Carter, joined as always by Mr. Maka. How are you on this fine evening, sir?
Not too bad. I am very, very, very fucking tired, as you can probably tell. It's been a hefty week of just trying to do so much shit. But, you know, it is what it is. At least it's still fucking bright out. Happy days. How are you?
That's a groundbreaking philosophy right there. It is what it is. That's like Descartesian. I love it. Yeah, I got sunburnt at the start of this very warm week, and it's been a very hot one since, to be fair with you. I don't know if you can see, I'm very sort of shiny and burnt in some places, but still overly creamy peach colored in others. But yeah, it's been a fun week. Very much looking forward to our guest this evening. Unfortunately, we were supposed to record with somebody else this week, but kindly, our guest tonight has jumped in the fray and saved us from...
Saved their asses.
Or rather, saved you, wonderful folks, from another week of me and Maka talking shite for 2 hours. But our guest this evening is a cannabis campaigner who is fighting for whole plant or FECO, full extract cannabis oil, on the NHS for her son who has a rare form of epilepsy that is drug resistant. Karen Gray, welcome to the Simpa Life Podcast. How are you today?
Hello, I'm really good, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Anytime. Could you please give our sort of listeners and viewers a better idea of sort of who you are and why you're here today?
Okay, so my son is 8 now, and he started having seizures when he was young. He got put on loads of different drugs, nothing helped. One of them actually caused a blood disorder, which he needed blood transfusions for. Steroids put 2 stone in weight on him, nothing helped. We eventually got Epidiolex through the NHS, and it did reduce the seizure lengths, but it didn't stop them. He was still in a wheelchair. He was having chronic side effects like diarrhea from this 6 mils a day of this Epidiolex. Then it just stopped working completely, and he ended up in hospital in status. So he was basically lying in a hospital bed, getting tube fed, absolutely out his face on all the drugs they were giving him. It was horrible. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And then I basically went over to Holland and I got a doctor, took over Murray's medical notes, went to the pharmacy, brought back the oil. For 3 months, actually, I brought it back through customs illegally, which was really stressful. By the 3rd month, it was a case of I knew this oil was helping, and I was more scared of getting it taken off me than getting caught with it. I wasn't really bothered what would happen to me. NHS refused to write a prescription, refused to help. He was having like hundreds of seizures a day up until June, basically coming up for 2 years now, and he's not had a single seizure at all. Nothing. And we know it's the cannabis oils that are, keeping the seizures away for sure. That was a very, very, very quick explanation of the last 3 years.
Yeah, very, very concise. And I mean, this was all kind of respect. Unfortunately, not that much of a unique story. There were quite a few parents in exactly the same position that were kind of told, there's nothing we can do. We can give exactly what we've told we can give you. If that doesn't work, we don't know what to tell you. And then people like yourself who are kind of brave and bold enough to reach out, to look out and see what is out there and do some research, and then travel to these places to then access this, to then come back and be met with dumbfounded doctors who are looking at you like, well, okay. So how does that kind of felt because I mean, in one part, I imagine it's empowering to take autonomy for your child's health, but on the other hand, to have this monolith of a health system kind of deny you this basic right of access.
Exactly, because the law changed in November 2018. So, they are allowed to write the prescription. Legally, they can do it. But unfortunately, I've been told various things like, oh, I'm collecting my pension soon, or, oh, I can't do it. I won't do it because I don't know if it's safe. Then fast forward a year that he's been on it, he's still not going to do this for us. No, still not going to do it. Getting passed from pillar to post by various departments, from the UK government to the Scottish government, sort of blaming each other, saying, well, it's the Scottish government's responsibility, and the Scottish government are saying, no, it's the UK government's responsibility. Nobody's taken ownership of it. And they've changed guidelines have been updated and stuff, and nothing has changed at all. Like, nobody can get these prescriptions. And I think it's more infuriating because there are 2 children in the UK with NHS prescriptions for the very same oils. And that's the bit that actually really hurts, because, you know, they're already prescribing this to 2 children, the same oils. So what's wrong with my children? What's wrong with all the other children, you know, that are needing it? It's absolutely shocking, to be honest. And I've tried so many times, different avenues, you know, to try and get the prescription and funding and things. And I get different excuses each time. I mean, it's just a joke. I got told that I would have to move Murray's care down to but basically a hospital in London. The doctor who's writing the prescription, I said, no, you know, he's got a right to care, NHS care in Edinburgh. Loads of different things. Told I couldn't get a second opinion option with the doctor I wanted. I had to have, it was on a list they gave me, and I knew all the doctors on it weren't supportive of cannabis at all. So I thought, okay. Asked for like a shared care agreement between my GP, who wants to prescribe this for us. And I got told, no, you can't have that, because we can't have a shared care agreement with a private neurologist. And it's like, okay. Then we got put forward to RESCAs, the refractory epilepsy specialist, you know, the thing that was set up by Matt Hancock that allegedly, to help us get these prescriptions. And they basically said that Murray should be weaned off the oils and put back on Epidiolex. And it's a case of no, you know, like it was just, we're kind of fighting that at the moment. We've actually scaled it up to the Scottish Public Ombudsman's looking at it now. Because the information given to RESCAs we don't feel was actually accurate. So then Murray's neuro at the time resigned from his care due to the stress of the situation. And I thought, this is great. You know, it's stressful for you. Can you imagine how stressful it is for us finding over £1,000 a month each month to keep our son out of your hospital? And so he resigned from the care. Now we've got the team of neuros. We've asked them to go back to RESCAs and give them the correct information. We've actually got documentation for a health professional that wrote Murray's healthcare plan whilst he was on Epidiolex in school, you know, and we've seen her as well, and she's basically wrote a letter to say how bad he was then and how great he is now, and they won't go back to RESCAs. So it's just like, you know, it's like, where do you go? I mean, it's just absolutely shocking, you know, what's been going on.
Yeah, it sounds it, and it echoes to me conversation, I think it was episode 26, 27, we had Lisa Quarrell on, and she had the exact same thing. What happened with the Scottish government basically went, NICE have updated the guidelines in the UK, so we're going to follow them. We haven't had to update our guidelines. And then they've gone to the UK, and the UK have said, you have to follow the Scottish guidelines. We haven't updated them since the laws changed, so therefore we defer to their guidelines. And it's that infinite loop trap. And exactly what you've just said there as well, it's the obfuscation of responsibility. No one individual wants to like pause it and kind of go, this very specific thing works for this very specific child. Look at the transformation over 18 months and measure that, not the other determinative factors. The reason that the official body is pushing Epidiolex is because it's a registered licensed medication. In their eyes, they're happy to do that because that's the official route for it. Whereas everything they're doing with cannabis at the minute is off-label prescription. And they know this. But what we also found out from a conversation with Hannah Deacon a few weeks ago, all child medications are unlicensed and untested because it's immoral to do tests on children. So we're stuck in this paradox of the very excuse they're using doesn't hold light. The idea of it, if you don't glimpse behind that very thin veil and go, it's bullshit. That's a lot of bullshit under there. You know what I mean? It looks like a genuine excuse, and they don't have any leg to stand on with this. I can't get my head around it. I mean, I'm quite glad to hear that obviously you're one of the families that will benefit. I say benefit. You're still obviously having to fork out the money you are, but you're going to benefit from that extended window of allowing Bedrolite products to be imported, because since obviously Brexit, they kind of turned around at the 11th hour to the majority of people and went, oh, by the way, in a few weeks, you're not going to be able to import this because we can't fulfill British prescriptions in foreign pharmacies. So how much notice, if you don't mind me asking, were you given about this?
Oh, we were given about 2 weeks notice. It was just like, oh my God, like you are kidding. And it was a major panic. So I thought, like with COVID and everything, it's not like we could just fly back over and pick it up and bring it back again. So it was a major stress, but fair dues to the Department of Health, they did sort it out. They realised how important it is that the children over here continue to receive this oil. But whether it's not because of the 2 children that already have NHS prescriptions, I do question if they didn't have those prescriptions, would they have bothered to sort it out for the rest of us, you know?
Yeah, I don't think they'd have had that obligation, would they? They could have kind of just gone, well, it's out of our hands and that's enough. But the fact that already kind of cemented that mechanism, I think that was the minimum they could do, is to keep that 6 months. And now they've given it another 6 months, I believe. It's January 2022. They've said that it's going to run out again.
That's right, yeah. So, I mean, they have done that, which is good. But, you know, they should sort out the funding for all of us as well. You know, they should do something. They should create, like what they've got in Ireland. They've got a they've got a reimbursement department. They've got a department over there that they reimburse the cost of your oils. You know, they could do something like that here. I know that Vera Toomey over there is fighting to get it paid at cost so that she doesn't have to actually fork out the money for the medicine and wait to get it reimbursed as well. But I mean, they could do something like that for us here, reimburse us. You know, that would at least help, because it's a struggle for anybody trying to find that kind of money each month. And then you look at the kids that could really, I mean, I know people with kids that could really, really benefit from trying this oil, and they cannot afford it. And so their child is still having hundreds of seizures. Like, how fair is that? It's not fair. How fair is, you know, it's not good. It's upsetting.
It really is, because it's bureaucracy, and as we've just discussed, it's very thinly veiled bureaucracy. It's a few strokes of a fucking pen at this point. It really shouldn't take as much as they're pretending it to be. There's an interesting point I saw in a comment on something I posted on Facebook last week, I think maybe, and it basically said that one of the reasons the UK is struggling most is that we have a free healthcare service. So the adoption of cannabis into a private insurance-based system is quite easy, because then it's dirty business doing deals with dirty business. It's quite easy. When they can't screw over the end user, they have to screw over the civil service system. They have to screw over the governmental part of the NHS. So there's parts of it that are being picked clean as they're privatizing to create mechanisms for, say, DMT therapies, LSD therapies, you know, ketamine therapies, all the rest of this stuff, while they're still leaving this in the lurch. And it very much to me feels maybe slightly a conspiratorial thought, but the idea that they're doing this deliberately, they're empowering this private mechanism until it is so much larger, until their margins are ran to the bottom, so that even by the time the NHS could catch up to it and is allowed to run that race, they will never see that finish line, because they'll have created these divergent alternative routes away from a social healthcare system.
I'd say that, you know, it's possible, of course it is. It's also possible that through utter fear, ignorance, that they're doing this inadvertently. They're doing the exact same enforcing inadvertently, if that makes sense. So that, you know, when the time does come from the NHS to actually play ball, it's fucked from that point of view. But I mean, that's also viable if you think about it. I mean, did you say, Karen, that one of the neurologists, is that correct, retired due to the stress of the situation? Due to the stress?
He didn't retire. He just retired from Murray's care, so he's still working there. Yes, it's just that he didn't want to look after Murray anymore. Yeah. Right,
okay. I had it in my head that he had just went, right, something's coming, somebody's trying to get me, I'm fucked, I'm out, I'm tapped.
No, it wasn't anything. And it wasn't even as if I was emailing him all the time, because I wasn't. You know, it wasn't anything like that at all. I'd accepted the fact that he would never, ever write the prescription. All I wanted to do was get the shared care agreement, which would have left him completely out of it. You know, but he obviously didn't trust me to, he obviously thought, well, if Rescas say, Murray should stay on the soil, it would have put pressure on him to write a prescription, you know, but I'd said I wouldn't do that. I would have pursued the shared care agreement to keep him out of it, but there we go,
So what do you think is going to be sort of the future of this? Do you think it's going to be a situation where they go, the NHS route is available, but it's only ever going to be Epidiolex?
No. I think they'll do trials. I do think they're going to do trials. Whether it's going to be using isolates, like THC isolates and things, I don't know. But I do think that that whatever company they use, whatever oil they use, just say the trial is successful. I think that'll be the only one you can get. I don't think they're going to say, okay, like we've trialed THC, we'll write you a prescription for your Bedrolite and your Bedica. You know, it just, I don't think they'll do that. I know in Holland, they were about to start trials using the Bedrolite in a children's hospital. So we're kind of just holding out and waiting for that to, to finish and things to get the results, because that may help. Although the NHS here and the doctors, they don't seem to want to take any evidence from abroad.
Yeah, that's the difficult situation we stand. If they want to look for evidence of efficacy, there is an entire subcontinent across the way there that has mountains of it. But of course, it is not accepted within our academic realms or within our. It's bullshit. It's entirely bullshit. The humans that are wandering the continent of North America are the same as us. You know what I mean? They have the same makeup, they have the same endocannabinoid system. Yeah. It's an absolute farce what is currently happening with the way that this is being sort of rolled out. One question I did want to ask you is, do you think that this would happen with an independent Scotland? Do you think, obviously, Scotland have kind of committed to the idea of looking to legalize and create a much more robust medical market anyway? But I suppose it's a two-part question. One, do you think if IndieRef wanted to gone the right way there, that shows my political leanings. There you go, folks. If it had gone the other way, shall we say, do you think we'd be in this situation? I suppose part two, we are in this situation. Do you think IndieRef 2 could be a potential solution to it? Okay, so if Scotland went independent, I think, that they would decriminalise cannabis. They would do a lot more. I think they would. But with regards to NHS prescriptions, I think we'd still have the same trouble, because the neurologists work UK-wide. Like, they work UK-wide, and I don't think that'll change, because, they all sort of, like the BPNA, the British Paediatric Neurology Association, it's UK-wide. RESCAs, it's UK-wide. I don't think that'll change. I think it'll change the drug stance, like decriminalising of things. I think that'll change, but I don't think NHS prescriptions will change. Interesting, because all that would kind of then look to create is kind of an industry of pop-up shops and vendors kind of supplying then what is needed. I mean, there's an argument to be made that would work far better because the ease of access, but then it is a case of certain standards. And this is where the industry likes to pride itself, that all this medical weed that it's currently distributing in the UK is above the standard that can be grown in warehouses that criminal gangs or individual growers can cultivate themselves. This is slowly unraveling as we're seeing more and more of images of people releasing medical cannabis flowers that have bud rot, medical cannabis flowers that are turning up looking like oregano shake, people paying serious money for product that frankly is little to no trichomes from various testing that's been done by I'm not sure if they've released the study yet, so I'm not going to name them. A certain organization. It has highlighted that there is massive discrepancy between what is on the label and the end product. So people are getting 2 or 3 prescriptions in, and they're actually getting 2 or 3 different cultivars with widely varying terpene and cannabinoid profiles. So their arguments of consistency, their arguments of hygiene and everything else are just not there in quite a few cases. So that being said, I think the current market, if self-regulated and self-governed, could really get there. I mean, I'd like to hope that if Scotland went for a true independence, they would kind of want to, in every way, almost spitefully be like, fuck you to what's left of the UK, and be like, we will make our own independent this and this and this and this and this. And by doing it, probably attract a lot of the people in Britain that are kind of, if we go over there, we can actually speak our mind. We can work in the field and advance, rather than getting stuck in this loophole of going, oh, actually, we will prescribe brain surgery over a plant. We will prescribe 74 medications or whatever it was that Hannah was on about. We will go through all of these ridiculous routes of traditional medicine rather than looking at the oldest traditional medicine. Yeah,
I know it's silly, isn't it? Like, you've got VNS, they implant VNS into children. It costs about 20 grand. And that, I mean, it's an electrical thing they put on their nerves, that gives them sort of, it's horrible. And they'd rather do that, put something like that inside their child, than let them try the cannabis oil that has no side effects.
Or drill 15 holes into the side of your head. 15 holes. Was it 15 or 17?
17, I think. I'm sorry, I've just thought of something there. What if, every doctor had to try every drug first? Because paracetamol and shit and that. No, imagine a hot take. This is just a hot take. It's just come off my head. So forgive me for any extreme thought that if you took this to a hyperbolic argument, you might go to. But if every doctor had to try every drug, be aware of the active side effects of these compounds, I think it would directly change their relationship. So if all of the doctors that say, no, cannabis is bad, had to have at some point taken cannabis, they would at least have a better idea. Even if it wasn't for them, they'd be like, well, the world didn't end. The devil didn't appear before me. I didn't go out naked and go and kill children. None of the horrible, ridiculous things that the media wants me to think about it. I think it would really change that relationship massively.
It'd become more shamanistic, and back to that sort of level, would it be sort of neo-shamanism, but mixed with medical? Oh no, I fucked it up. I was trying to come up with something clever there and it just didn't work. It was too long. It was about 16 words. No, I think that would be an interesting thing, especially from a terms of if you want to truly be effective in the most complete sense medically, then the only way forward is to fucking know what you're talking about through and through, not what you've read, but fucking know it. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
It's the most effective people in drug dependency recovery. The people that seem to have the most long-term success are people who have had lived experience, that have either gone through recovery themselves, or even people that are in peership that are still consuming. You know what I mean? That active connection to it, rather than the judgment, the stigma, the shame, and all the other crap that comes from some highly educated individual from a different class than you, who lives a very different life from you, sitting in his lovely, clean, pressed shirt and his brand new 300-pound shoes, looking down on you for being dressed the same way for 3 goddamn days because you've been struggling at the school. You know what I mean? It's a ridiculous kind of warped thing. And it's the same with when a doctor then sits this side of them. Oh, the stress of all of this. It's like, mate, I've got to make 1,500 fucking quid a month to keep my kid alive. Fuck you. Mm-hmm. It's such a warped mentality of the juxtaposition between the reality that these are the gatekeepers. You know, Hannah Deacon spoke about on the podcast recently of the doctors are no longer gods. I thought it was a wonderful way of describing it. And it's not just the way that we're looking at them, but I think they're realizing it too. And that's why they're going, nah, you can't have that magic plant because I don't understand it, therefore it's wrong.
That's right. I mean, obviously, whenever we first met Murray's neuro, like, we trusted him, and you know, all the drugs that he was given Murray, we trusted him absolutely 100%. We trusted him, and then you get to a stage where I don't know if I actually, you know, I don't know if I trust what he's doing now, you know. And then the whole thing with the cannabis oil, especially now that we've seen how much it helps Murray, and he's, you know, they're still saying no, we can't prescribe that, and it really does open your eyes and make you think, my God, you know, like if we'd just given him the oil first of all, without giving him all those horrible medications that he had to try, he would have been, you know, he would have been okay. And so you do sort of lose a bit faith in them as well. Like, absolutely. I think I've lost faith in all, like, I question everything now, everything. Whereas before I wouldn't have questioned anything. I would have trusted my doctor 100%. And now I question everything and I look up everything.
No, you're right. You're right too. Because, you know, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, pull this up. If you go on to Karen's Twitter page and you go on the pinned tweet, the image that accompanies the GoFundMe page, that is, first image is January. The next image is, what is that, May? Is May.
Murray started the cannabis oils in March. He started, and this was actually before, I think it was, he'd only been taking the Bedica for a couple of weeks whenever I took that picture. And he wasn't seizure-free at that point either. But the major difference in him, just, you know, from the few months that he started taking the oil, was just, I mean, it still blows my mind to this day that I never ever thought that we could get him back how he is. I just thought, you know what, maybe this oil will stop him going into status. Well, maybe we just have to live with seizures every day. But it's unbelievable how much it's helped.
It's insane, because the attitude of these doctors, they're talking about the things that they're talking about is harm reduction, of just like, you're gonna have this worse, more suffering, horrible existence anyway, and what we're gonna do is kind of almost put around and tweak and do this and that, and is that got it? No. Is this got it? No. Is that got it? And what they're doing is symptom management. They're still just trying to look at seizures, or they're looking at the tremors of this sector, or they're looking at this and this and this, and they're trying to go too specific when what we're already finding from the anecdotal evidence and things we've known in, I suppose, law and in academia, for law as in folklore, not as in law as in law. Sorry, to clarify that. For nearly 200 goddamn years, if you look at William O'Shaughnessy and his publications of this, you then think of how long those cultures knew about this, that every housewife knew to do it. You know what I mean? You think of that traditional knowledge, that I hesitate to use sacred knowledge, but I would use that in the loosest term to describe the intergenerational knowledge of how to use plants and herbs and that intimate healing. Because yeah, there were shamans who dealt with the serious shit, but most people, if you had a random ailment, you would know what to do. I even think of my grand's generation, and she became a nurse because everything in their time was the old time stuff, and they moved into this new paradigm of medicine. But still, she would go and be telling the people who were taking the drugs, if you tried this, you know, this plant, this and that, and giving them this knowledge still. But it's weird that we've now diverging from that. We've kind of gone to this point of modern pharmacology, and now we're diverging away again. They've taken the plants, they've created the compounds, they've tried their little tweaks and their little whatever, and now we're going back to, well, I suppose not even back to, we've discovered the endocannabinoid system. We now understand how this thousands of years of knowledge actually works within the human body. And it's wonderful to see this divergence away. And I suppose all this bolstering and this bullshit and bureaucracy is the resistance of that pull away, like Velcro almost. And it's such a shame that families like yourself are caught up within that tearing apart, this separating of that system, because 10 years, 10, 15, 20 years from now, the way that children who are born with these conditions, I mean, fuck, we might even get to a point of children not born with these goddamn conditions if we actually pursue the right train of thought, rather than going, this happens, deal with it, going, why does it happen? And this is the wonderful thing of the endocannabinoid system. We can start to look at all of this in a different light.
Yeah, I know. I think we're just too early. You know, we all know this now, but we're just too early. You know, they need to catch up with us. The doctors and everything, they do need to catch up with us. Like, they already use, like, most medicine is plant-based. Like, quite a lot is. You know, they take, like, look at morphine, for instance. Like, it is, they take it from the plant. So what's wrong with taking it from the cannabis plant? Why, you know, what happened? What happened?
Yeah, it's a separate nature of it as well, though, because opiates are less harmful to us than opioids. Opioids are the semi sort of synthetics and full synthetic versions, the analogs of these natural compounds. So people smoked opium for generations, and yeah, there's obviously the racist myths of like the crazed Chinaman and all this other stuff that kind of go through modern history over the past few hundred years. But generally speaking, it was not really an issue until the British weaponized it as part of the international trade, as a way to control commerce and hold cultures. But prior to that, same with other substances, they just existed. If you knew, or you were part of the people who would tell you how to use it, you'd use it. If not, you didn't know, it did no harm. And so this is where I worry of what we're kind of stuck at now, with the reason families like yourselves are going, no, Epidiolex. I can't think of a single person in your position, in a similar position to yourself, that we've had on the podcast, or we're planning to have on the podcast, who has tried Epidiolex and had a positive result from it. It's scary when I hear about it.
I know it's not on, it really isn't. I should say as well, changing the subject a wee bit, just to kind of plug this, right?
Plug.
Yeah. We've set up a charity called Intractable. Me and 3 other parents, all with children and loved ones with intractable epilepsy. And our aim for the charity is to raise money so that we can pay these private prescription costs. So it's been a journey trying to get it set up, especially during COVID, like bank accounts and things. It has just been an absolute hassle, but we're there. We're just about got enough money to actually get the charity status. And then we're hopefully going to be hitting big companies to give us lots and lots of funding, so we can basically do what they're doing in Ireland, basically just like, you know, reimburse people for their, or actually pay the invoices directly for the cannabis oil cost, to take some of the strain off, you know, the strain off the parents. And like, there's parents that are not being able to fundraise, they're running out of money, they're stressing because they know that they're going to not have enough money to buy the soil for their kids. So I think it's like an important thing to do so that we can help other people. So I just had to plug that. Sorry.
No, definitely. That's
I have it up here. I'm playing the video for people to see at home. So if you're listening, jump over onto our YouTube page and give this a look.
You'll be able to find the link in the description below as well. No, this is perfect though, because there's a part of me that is like, the companies that are profiting from it's going to be horrible. I've just realized how many P's are in the sentence. Sorry. The companies who are profiting from the current paradigm of prohibition are perpetuating this paradigm. I didn't mean that to be so illiterate. I was trying this way. But you know what I mean, right? So by them making money on the current situation as it is, they are perpetuating the situation to be prolonged. Still too many P's. I'm trying, and I can't help it. Sometimes it turns on a letter in my head. It just spins a wheel and it goes, "This sentence will be all P's." Anyway, so yeah, they're making money from this. So why the fuck shouldn't they be funding the people who can't get into this because they're currently blocking it? It's like, instead of we're kicking the door open, they've opened it up in a crack, and their greedy fat ass is still, oh no, you can't, we can't, while holding the goddamn door shut. So people are like, no, come on, there's enough, we can get through. It's a ridiculous paradigm that we're under. It is truly absurd.
Also, I suspect your question is semi-rhetorical, or at least fully rhetorical, actually.
Everything I say is to some degree fully rhetorical.
It's fucking obvious. Like, that's obvious why. Money.
Yeah.
So I think as well, like, obviously there's lots of, everybody's got different opinions, and a lot of people in the cannabis community don't like the whole farmer route, don't want the cannabis oil through the farmer route. But like, for me, I want that for Murray. I want to be able to just go, to be able one day just to go to a chemist and get Murray's medicine. I don't want to have to grow my own plants and make my oil. I've tried to grow, plants, right? And they've ended up moldy and in the bin. I've tried, because everyone says, oh, grow it yourself. And I thought, all right, bugger it, I'm going to try it. Didn't work, can't do it. I'm not green fingers, I can't do it. So I want to be able to use the NHS, but like, for people that can grow it, like, why not just allow them to do it? I mean, I just don't get this country at all. Like, we're so backwards. I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Change. Oh, did you get the dad?
Back. No, you're back.
Did I just press something? Oops.
It's normally one of us, to be fair. And looking at this fella up here.
Yeah, my camera. Yeah, touch wood. My camera's been pretty good recently. Yeah, it's as you say, it's quite sort of a frustrating system. I understand why people are saying what they're saying to you, but I would say it's often said with a bit of naivety, because part of the healing of growing your own plants is the process of it. Is you pick your seeds and you've got these tiny little babies and you germinate them and you nurture them and you plant them and you look at them every day and you feed them and you worry about them and you stress about it, and then at the end of it you cure it and you dry it and you cure it and you have this kind of end product. And that process of that relationship is powerful. That connection to having the autonomy of your health. When you're doing that for another person, it's just fucking stress to that end point. Okay, I've got to get this right for them. Whereas for you, you're going, hey, it's okay if it's scroggy. Or if it seeds a bit, I can do this. If I get this, I can deal with this. And it's not the whole worry that if you fail, someone you love is in peril. The added stress of that, especially with a parental child connection, means that, especially now that your son is no longer doped up on a lot of the pharmaceutical compounds, he's far more aware of your stress levels, of your interaction with the rest of the family, with your interaction with society.
Good point.
So it's what I keep bringing up with a lot of the mothers that are in similar situations, and it sounds a bit harsh and I don't mean it to, is what's the point of saving the child if other irreparable damage is done to them socially, mentally, physically? And I don't mean that as in give up. That's not what I mean. I just mean that we have to focus on these other elements, because at some point, the children of today who are going to be being, through intention or not, the poster children for this pharmaceutical paradigm, as they move into adulthood, they need that, as you say, they need to be able to pop into a shop. It should just be the same. It should be Holland & Barrett's, Boots, any of these places, because it's a non-invasive thing when you truly look at it at the levels that are necessary just to keep off the seizures. It's not a vast amount of these compounds when you look at how much you derive from the scale that is taken. If we can remove the greed element, it's such a small amount. If you look at the grand scale of it, all of the children with epilepsy in this country could be dealt with one decent outdoor grow. It's ridiculous, but they want to go, no, we can make 2.6 million off this, we can do this and create a vertically integrated infrastructure, and fuck off the kids. That's the end thing. Plant, children. It's that
I know,
simple.
and I would say like the amount of THC that Murray gets as well. He's never been high, never once, never ever been high off it at all. You know, it's such a small amount. Yeah.
Which can, I mean, if you have looked at some of the images that I've brought up, I mean, when he's completely out of it in one of those pictures, I mean, they're the drugs that are supposed to help. Do you know the kind of way? And you're saying that he's never been high from this.
He's medicated.
Oh,
Their
right.
terminology is he's medicated. If he was,
he was high off pharmaceutical drugs,
That's
you know,
what I
and
mean,
they didn't even stop the seizures, and it was horrible. I mean, I've got pictures of him. His eyes are rolled at the top of his head, and I asked at the time, you know, is that the seizures that are doing that, or is that the medication? And they said, well, probably a bit of both. And now when I look back, I'm like, it was the medication, you know. Definitely. It was the medication. Like, he was absolutely off his face, and it's horrible. Really, it's horrible. Like, whenever I do look back pictures, if I've got to, like, if I'm doing an interview and they ask for pictures and videos, it is horrible. It's horrible, and I just think, oh my God, how did I cope? How did I actually cope with that? You know, and I think I could never ever go back to that. Now that he's so well, like, yeah, it's horrible. So yeah, we've just got to keep going. And that's why I think all of us just keep going, keep campaigning, because we've got no other option. We have to do this. And I'll say Murray has no idea at all that his doctors won't give him this medicine, and that his mum and dad are paying for it, and that his face is all over the internet. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's no idea at all that that's happening, and that's the way we have to keep it, because I don't want him to grow up hating the world and hating the doctors and hating the government, because they won't help. So we have to sort of shield them from that.
Bless you.
Can you imagine? I'm sorry. I'm just gonna can you imagine being asked? No, I think you're right. Sorry. I should preface that. Because could you imagine being asked by your child, why don't the people that are there to help me help me? Simple question, and you could hear it. You could fucking hear it coming out of a child's mouth. I don't know. How do you answer that?
You just, how do you answer that? You just couldn't. You know.
Oh man.
Rules and regulations, and it would be like, well, I don't, you know, how would you understand that? Yeah.
I sincerely hope that this is resolved within enough time that he gets that innocence and naivety of his youth at this point, because enough of it has been stolen by such a warped, archaic system that would rather hold on to its traditions and its principles than real world evidence. It's absurd. It's truly fucking absurd. I mean, I'd like to think that in a few years, this will be sorted, and he gets that youth, and he gets that opportunity to grow up in a world, as you say, that he doesn't have that knowledge of how fucked it is that they will deny a child something that, as you say, is seizure-free. It's not just managing symptoms, it's prevention. It's, you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's 100% effective. 100%. It's a DEGs, you know, the things they put on their heads, and they test the brainwaves and all that. Before the THC oils, that it was catastrophic. I mean, it was all over the place. And the one he had done, the most recent one he had done, looked normal. There was no seizure activity, you know. And in the Deuce syndrome, which is what Murray has, was still there, still underlying, but no seizure activity. And I mean, that's clinical evidence, you know, clinical evidence. And it's just so infuriating that they won't help. Yeah. But we've just got to keep pushing on, because at some point, you know, at some point they're going to have to help.
So what's his sort of day-to-day life like nowadays on the oil that he's on, in comparison to sort of the traditional medications?
Right. So before, I mean, you couldn't leave him for a second. You could not leave him for a second, because he'd be having drop seizures or whatever, you know, any other type of seizures that he was having. So you couldn't leave him, even at night. I mean, he would sleep in my bed in the every night, and I wouldn't, you know, just through fear, because he was always having seizures. And but now, I mean, I can go out the room and leave him in the room, and with apps, there's no 100% he's going to be fine. Like, he's not in a wheelchair. He doesn't have to wear his protective hat. He's at school full time. He's, you know, he'll can play at the park, and I'm not at the back of him, just waiting for him to have a seizure or waiting for him to fall. Like, I can take him out and know that he's going to be fine. You know, it's night and day. It was like, you know, I look back to how we lived, and I don't know how we did it. I honestly don't know how we did it, because it is just like night and day.
Yeah.
And the only sort of seizure that I've ever dealt with personally is was it with animals, right? And it's incomparable, right? But I assume that there's some sort of subliminal thought process that is perhaps relatable, at least. Is like I have a cat. I still have him at the moment, and I'm sort of I don't know how to actually verbalize this properly, but I have this knee-jerk reaction every time that it happens to him that this could be it. This could be it. This could be the last time that I fucking see this cat, man. And I'm sorry to be so heavy about it, but I don't think people that give you you and the other mothers that we've had on flipping comments like, "Oh, go to Holland and Barrett. They said it over there," or you know what?
Heard that a million times.
Yeah, or you know, or grow your own is you know, why don't you do that? Or there's plenty of people that fucking grow it. Why don't you get it off of them? Not fucking. They don't understand that feeling, man. You know that like I'm trying not to be so like down about it, but just to sort of sum it up, it is indescribable, that feeling of just absolute finiteness. Do you know that kind of way that everything could change within that moment, and you are fucking, well, me personally, you are useless in that situation. Did you know that kind of way? For the most part, without proper, you know, medicine. And you know, I almost was reluctant to use that term, but in this case it would definitely be the proper term to use, you know. Jesus, yeah, I'm not leaving you any sort of branches to hang on to come in and save me here from this thought process. But the one thing I can also just comment on is that what I find is that in that sort of situation, I have no concept of time whatsoever. When I did bring the cat to the vet, the vet was asking me all these questions. How long was this? How long was this? And I was like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And it was probably closer to 30 seconds. And he ended up giving us some sort of proven medication that we have to give him rectally. And the idea was to manage that sort of that indescribable feeling that I'm trying my best to fucking dance around here, is that he said, put the thing in the drawer downstairs. By the time it happens, you go to the drawer, you get it. That's about 30 seconds, 40 seconds. You'll be able to judge it by then. And if it's still happening at that point, you can apply it. Or if he's coming out of it, just monitor it and actually document it and do all of those things. Now, I've said all of this for a cat. I'm talking about a fucking cat. Do you know that kind of way? It's like you can. I genuinely don't think people like you get enough respect. That's, I guess, is the summary of the point that I'm trying to make. I'm sorry, we got there in the end, people. We got there in the end. But yeah, you deserve more than medals. You really do.
Oh, thank you. Well, before the oils, just for what you were saying there, like when Murray would have a seizure, we would have to start counting. So basically, I would have my phone and I'd be putting the stopwatch on. And once it got to 5 minutes, I'd have to administer midazolam to him and phone an ambulance. And then I'd be still counting another 5 minutes. If that would go, I'd have to administer more midazolam. But then the ambulance should be there, and it always was there before I had to give a second dose. But yeah, you're literally, you know, when you get to the 5 minutes, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to give him this stuff, and I'm going to have to phone an ambulance, and oh my God. And you're just going, please stop, you know, in your head, you're like, oh God, please stop, because you're terrified, because, you know, the longer the seizure goes on. And I mean, there's kids that have seizures for up to, like, tonic-clonic seizures for up to an hour. And, you know, and it's just like, oh my God. And then, you know, cannabis oils with THC could help that, could stop that, could reduce it. Yeah.
It's crazy when you think of what we're looking at now this is still very crude when you think of a cannabis oil tincture. When you think of what we're looking at, they're trying to refine it and create all of their synthetic compounds, and they will continue to do so. But the more we really learn about this, I think then we're going to be able to use it in such prophylactic ways that people will just not be in this situation in the future. You know, there's this theory that's been kicked around in higher end academic circles for a while of a chronic endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. And I think epilepsy is going to fit right into that, along with fibro, along with, you know, MS, ME, many of these, yeah, exactly. I think there is something there, that the intimate nature of the relationship that we have with cannabis and that we have had since the birth of the modern Homo sapien is, we're starting to learn far more and more, and we're learning about the different cultures that have had this for so long. And I truly think that we're going to get to a point of understanding that they almost didn't see it as medicine. It was food. If you don't eat food, you starve. I think that's the kind of attitude we're going to get to. It's not a case of, do you consume cannabis? It's going to be, do you enjoy the psychoactive benefits of cannabis, or do you just consume cannabis? I think that's where we're going to get to, because supplementation of everybody's endocannabinoid system, I think, will in some way modulate the genes that then, when two people are coming together to create life, that then it's the combination of these genes that are then turning certain things on. There's then epigenetics when the child is born that can then precipitate the turning on and off of certain genes. But in a crude roundabout sense, the healthier people are, the healthier the genes they are when they reproduce. So therefore, if we get everybody's endocannabinoid system supplemented, if we get it treated like a vitamin, if we get it moved up with that kind of mentality, then I think that, the idea of us talking about these things in 20, 30 years will just be moot.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sorry, you're going to talk there, Margaret.
Yeah, no, I was just pondering, like, you know, homeostasis, not to be, you know, I mean, that is basically the efficiency of how your body works, essentially. I'm sure it could be described a lot better than that, but I'd love to know how, like, a super reinforced endocannabinoid system fits into that. And it probably will lead to everything that you've alluded to previously, which is, you know, the petering out of relatable issues, say, like that come under that umbrella, such as, you know, epilepsy or fibromyalgia or Crohn's or something like that. But I mean, could it promote some sort of positive effects in the opposite way? See what I'm saying? Could it actually make our bodies more efficient than they would be? And then, obviously, if it does, the conspiratorial tinfoil hat moment here is that obviously clearly does not fit into, was it Goldman Sachs or somebody that said that keeping people ill was more sort of financially not viable, but, you know, it was more suitable to the economy. Or so, it was a poor fucking quotation as well. I'm on fire tonight, I'll tell you. I got, you know, at least coherent this time. Yeah. Usually it's a double whammy with me, you know.
I think that the pharmaceutical companies would, they would take a big hit if cannabis was being morally freely available for people to use or get prescribed or whatever, because people wouldn't be needing as much pills, you know. And that is a fact. It is. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we already kind of seen this. I think that's why pharmaceutical companies are diversifying more into cannabis, and why they're trying to perpetuate and create this idea of medical cannabis. So in this country, you can be prescribed medical cannabis that is just floral cannabis, but as long as you vape it or don't combust it, and you've got a piece of paper that says it's magical cannabis, you're allowed it. But the other millions of people plus, their cannabis isn't magic because they haven't got the corresponding piece of paper. And it's a bit absurd that we're in a position where the very same people who have perpetuated this paradigm of maintenance drugs, because that's what they are, they maintain a certain level of reduction of symptomology. Because of the Goldman Sachs quote that I believe that Maka was trying to allude to before, was a Goldman Sachs executive stood up in an investment meeting. I think it was full of a load of healthcare professionals in America. And he said that curing conditions is not conducive for a healthy economy.
See, I've fucking said that.
Yeah.
Just use different words.
Again, mine's probably a rough paraphrase, but that is sort of the definition of what he was saying. He was basically saying that the curing conditions is not good for a healthy economy. It won't keep that money coming. If you cure all illness, you remove tens of billions from, or if not more, in America from that market. And so, yeah, you can understand for them, if the perpetuation of profit, if that quarterly profit is the motivation, that of course they're going to look at drugs like Epidiolex that do just enough. The efficacy is just there enough in the minimum amount that they can make, God knows, I think it's 300+ million they made in 2020 alone on Epidiolex sales in America.
Yeah.
At the same time they're denying you guys access, it's descheduled in America. So they moved it, I think, to Schedule 5, and then they managed to got FDA approval. Then they were going in for Schedule 5, and I think they've now descheduled it in America. So they're preparing to sell Epidiolex over the goddamn counter. With we know the consequences of that, yet they're looking at the benefits of this cannabis plant. They're going, oh, we can't get there. And it seems the only difference is synthetic compounds or derived compounds, because then they can patent the combination of the compounds. Whereas if they go grow a plant, extract it, oil, tincture, yeah, they could maybe try and patent tincture, but I think that's probably almost unpatentable at this point. The sheer volume of companies which use
Sorry, you may have to edit this. Wait, he's in his room, baby. Okay, that was Murray. Sorry.
No, not at all. The point of this podcast is to talk about and encapsulate our lives. So that's perfect. That is perfect.
Adds to it.
Well, 2 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to walk up the stairs and come and ask me something like that,
And he's so articulate as well. Like
yeah, exactly. Now he can speak and he can walk, and it's all really, really good.
Thank
you, cannabis.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's kind of there in my head, and I want to explore this thought in a safe space, as it were. That when you're kind of one of the lucky ones, because there's so many of them out. I say them out there. I don't mean to generalize in that sense, but I'm trying to shorten my sentence to get to my point.
It's more the lucky. It's more the lucky. Just I think use a better term than that.
You're one of the few that is informed. Do you know what I mean? And because you're informed, you've managed to get an intervention at an earlier stage. Whereas I think the desperation increases with the mechanism Maka was describing before of that. Is this one the finality? Is this the point where it ends? And I think that over time will build to such a point that you go, yeah, cut his skull open. Yeah, tie him with this. Yeah, give him that. Yeah, do this. Yeah. And you need to give that trust and have that trust in others, because you can't handle the sheer weight and burden of that. And so I guess what I meant by that, and it was a very crude sentencing, so thank you for forcing me to reevaluate it, Maka, is that, I think that it pained me in that moment of that interaction there. And then all of the parents and the people that will, I hope at some point, listen to this, that are in a similar situation, it pains me for their reaction in their head of listening to that or seeing that and wanting that for their child, but not being able to. And there's so many people that know some of, if not all of what you know, in the same position, the fear of criminality and the inability to access means that they are stuck knowing that they could do something, but because they want to be moral and good people, their child has to continue to suffer.
Or people that really, really trust what the doctors are saying, really, really trust them, and they trust them so much that they won't go and get the oil for them because they're trusting their doctor saying to them, no, don't, it's bad, it won't help, it might cause other problems, and they trust them, and it's so sad, really sad.
I mean, that should be the bare minimum, shouldn't it? That if you go to the doctor, he shouldn't be able to go, well, I've heard this, I've seen this. According to the Daily Mail, which I read religiously, it says that this is like, no, I am not informed enough on this subject, I cannot talk to you about this. That is what they should be doing. They shouldn't then be trying to put you off it or trying to then upsell you on another product, on another service. Because ultimately, if you look at this from a reductionist view, they are drug dealers. That's what they are there for. They are to provide a service for either treatment or for drugs. Ultimately, that is the modern system that we look at. We've all kind of been indoctrinated in this paradigm that if you go to a doctor with an ailment and you don't get a prescription for something, he's a shit doctor. He's not doing his job. He didn't take me seriously. You know what I mean? 3 weeks later, you're fine, but you're still like, doctor, but he didn't give me drugs, and drugs are what I need because drugs are the cure. And you can see how then we get manipulated into that mindset. And then to have the juxtaposition, I suppose, the separation of the reality of having another human being suffering, being responsible for that is, as Mark has said, you really don't get enough credit and kudos.
Definitely
and
don't.
Frankly, if the system saying, here's a bit of cash to pay for the treatment, that would be the bare minimum at this point. There should be treatment programs, there should be retreats, there should be entire funding mechanisms to allow for a system of normality. We've seen for a decade plus the stripping away of the benefit system, the streamlining of it to get rid of people that don't fit into their narrative and definition. Whereas what is the point of a free democratic society that creates excess wealth if that wealth isn't to help the most vulnerable?
Yep. Well said.
I think so. Because here's the thing. It's like, not to sort of bring in the gender thing, but if you swap it around, it's like me as a man describing my feelings for a cat, now project that onto an actual child in that situation. I don't know if I could be as well-mannered and as composed as all of you have been. I really don't. I definitely would have had a mental breakdown. I definitely would have. Either that, or I'd have been lynching fucking politicians left and right. Going, what? No, like genuinely going, what the fuck is the point of you if you can't protect children? That, Jesus Christ, like, come on. It's not, I was going to say it's not that hard, but I mean, in terms of making those decisions to actually, provide the foundation for this to be a viable choice for people, because I want, anybody that's still up their own arse about, we definitely don't want pharmaceutical. It has its fucking place, clearly. We've learned that through speaking with sorry, I'm realize I'm shouting and I'm feeding back. I'm sorry. But you know what I mean, I've learned that. I've taken that on the chin. Like, it wasn't like a hard-nosed thing, but I was always of the illusion, like, if it was my child, I'd grow. And then the three of you come on and gone, well, listen, you actually haven't fucking thought about this, young fella. Do you know what I mean? Fucking, do you know what I mean? You don't get the fucking stress of all of this kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many more times I can say it, but fucking hell, like, respect in the most simplest of terms, I guess. Really, really, I mean, yeah. Save me, Simpa. Fuck's sake, man.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting point then that was kind of brought up, or an opportunity to branch off in the previous segment, let's call it. It's something I've kind of been considering for a while, and it's something that I guess you kind of can't know because you're kind of still in it. But do you think this is kind of giving you CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder?
Oh, Christ, yeah, PTSD, without a doubt. I have days where, like, for instance, whenever Murray was ill, if I was out and Murray was at home, right, and I was out and I heard an ambulance, I'd phone home and I'd phone and ask if that ambulance was for Murray, and that didn't go away. I still get like that. If I hear an ambulance outside, I still have that urge to phone, and I have to stop myself and say, look, Karen, that ambulance isn't for Murray. You're not phoning, you're not phoning home. But I mean, I still get that. I have flashbacks to when he was in hospital. Murray seems to remember when he had the yellow tube up his nose and down his throat for feeding. And I think he's got PTSD because of that, because he can be talking to you and all of a sudden he'll remember it, and he starts getting very, very anxious and quite aggressive with the way he talks. And to see that is horrible. And so, I get like that when I picture him and those horrible pictures that you saw, like in that kind of state. They'll sit and I'll sometimes cry, or I'll sometimes, I have to stop myself and I'll feel angry. But it's just, I just think, I've been through that, and that's just a side effect to having to go through something like that. So hopefully in time that'll get better. Yeah. Hopefully.
I mean, it's the remnants are probably still around because you have this reprieve, but it's something that's cyclical. It's just constant. It's like a fire that's constantly being reignited in terms of like anxiety and stress, because there is no certainty. There is no endpoint, or where you can get that level of resolution so that you can healthily process this was it CPTSD? I think I abbreviated that correctly. You know what I mean? And I hope it comes for you in the short term. I really, really do, because fucking hell, I can't even deal with it in an animal. I really can't. So fucking hell, yeah. Hopefully it's soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're lucky. We are one of the lucky ones. He's not having any seizures now, you know. So we are really grateful and very, very lucky.
So, what sort of your thoughts? I mean, you've got, I'm trying to think what month we're in now. 5th month, 7 months until the oil set to run out again. Do you know of anything that's in the pipework, or do you sort of would you speculate that it's probably just going to be the same sort of thing another 6 months and then?
No, our importer actually in Glasgow have a facility. So the pharmacist from The Hague that extracts the oil is meant to be coming over here with the flower to extract the oil in the facility in Glasgow. And I know they've been working away with the Department of Health. I've actually had a letter from the Department of Health saying that this is happening, or I wouldn't be saying it to you on here. So we've actually had that in writing to say that is what's happening. But so far, it's not quite set up yet. I think more red tape to cut through and things. So not until it's officially put out in the media, that's when I'll be able to relax a wee bit and know that it is getting. The oil is getting extracted over here, but that's in the pipeline. Yeah, so hopefully that'll all be set up before January. So fingers crossed.
Interesting. Sorry, I was kind of lost in my own thoughts there, trying to piece something together in my head. Interesting way of doing it. So I suppose if they import as biomass or something like this, they can import it as agricultural or something else, or even actually under a drugs license, when they're processing it here, would then allow them to facilitate that prescription. Whereas if it's importation of a drug, you'd be fulfillment of a domestic prescription in a foreign market. So actually that is quite a smart way of doing it. If they can then match to that formulation. I mean, there are a few projects in the UK. I believe the 3rd license has been issued by the Home Office, or is about to be issued by the Home Office. And that's slowly pulling that door open, to use the analogy we were using before. And as soon as it opens, there are several major players about to sprint through that. So I think the idea of domestic production of most spectrum products is going to occur in the UK. And I think the compassionate argument hopefully should beat out the patent argument to allow for the exact formulation of products that are helping children like your own to get exactly what they need. I mean, once we've figured out that, okay, let's help the people we can now, figure out profitability later. This is always, at least until my speculative paradigm we were discussing before comes to fruition, if it does it, if it does it all. If not, then we're always going to have illness. We're always going to have disease and conditions that are going to need managing. And these are the plants and the compounds that can do that. So I think there's a big enough pie for them later on, but they're only going to be able to bake it if they give us the hand in the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm thinking there's another question I want to ask you, but I can't pull it to the forefront of my mind. Did Murray ever try any sort of just isolate or broad products?
Say that again. Sorry.
Any isolate or broad products?
No, the first CBD product he tried was Epidiolex. Although I was getting offered CBD here, there, and everywhere, I was too scared. Because of the amount of pharmaceutical medicine he was on and the amount of seizures he was having. I was just too scared to take something off someday and not tell my doctor. So we held out for the Epidiolex, which was the CBD isolate, and then basically weaned him off that and put him straight onto the Dutch oils, the Bedrolite. So, and I got people saying, they sell it in Holland and Barrett. It's like, no.
I saw it on an article recently about Murray. I think it was in the Mirror, and it's the first fucking comment. First comment. Just go to Holland and Barrett. And I honestly had to walk away from the PC.
Probably a member of staff from Holland and Barrett. Viral advertising. That's all. Actually, on the simpalife.com, honestly, I've had to stop putting the comments on the blog sections because all that are really poorly auto-generated sentences that when you click on the link below, it's to a random CBD seller around the world. It's ridiculous. It's got like literally 50 or 60 comments just stacked back that I can't do anything with. You just unpublish them. It's ridiculous. Some people mean it out of naive but well-meaning nature. Others are snake oil salesmen. Others are just people that are suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect and believe that they know everything about cannabis, and because they can get access to it, it's the best thing because they've got it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the best thing because they wouldn't have it. That kind of self-justifying sort of mechanism. There's something I'm just trying to Google, try and pull some information out of my ass. But yeah, the issue of then people saying, "Oh, just take CBD." High dose CBD or CBD in general inhibits the production of an enzyme in the liver, which is cytochrome P450, which modulates the effectiveness of certain, in fact, the vast majority of pharmaceutical compounds. So actually taking a high dose of CBD from some random and going, "I'm the man and I know this stuff, here, take this," it's going to increase the negative and detrimental effects of the pharmaceutical compounds they're on. It's going to prolong the amount of time that they're in the system. So it'll therefore compound the effect. And that's when you really have these problems. And that mechanism is not very well understood at all. I mean, terrifyingly so if you actually read the Food Safety Authority's justification in their press release as to why they became the regulators and why they're only allowing CBD first and not the other cannabinoids. They're saying they're not allowing the other cannabinoids through as in THC or the psychoactive compounds because they're fearful of their effects on traditional drugs.
Well, quite clearly.
It's a fucking joke, yeah, but then they'll push this. Yeah, so again, it's what we were saying before about them using a truth to shield a lie, that thinly veiled bullshit. You know what I mean? They'll put that truth in there and kind of go, it's partly true of a statement, and you go, on the surface, that's right. But there is a thing of the effects of the cannabinoids in conjunction together will modulate or reduce or can actually increase, depending on the ratio, the effect of these enzymes or the production of these enzymes. So it's still far more needs to be sort of learnt on it, but it is that thing of it's all well-intentioned people, but for some conditions we have to be very fucking mindful.
Very careful. Even things like warfarin, I mean, that totally reacts with CBD, doesn't it, as well? Mm-hmm. Like Murray's on a drug zanisamide, and we give it an hour before he gets his oils. He's on a very small amount now, I must say, as well. We've reduced it from 75 mils twice a day down to 25 with no seizures. So it just showed you that it wasn't working. Yeah. But yeah, you have to be careful. So we do give it an hour apart just in case. But we've never had any problems. So
I'm trying to rack my brain. I think the other one's glaucoma. I think glaucoma and CBD don't go well. It increases ocular degeneration.
Yeah, statins. Quite an awful lot of statins have negative interactions with CBD. It's worth fucking sort of knowing what you're talking about before you recommend it to somebody. Do you know, that kind of way?
Is it because it's like blood thinning it? Like, because CBD obviously thins your blood, so like warfarin thins your blood, so that would not be a good combination. The same with statins. Is that not for blood pressure as well?
Right, so correct.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can, as you were saying, Simpa, it can compound. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I mean, I appreciate where your thought process went when I flippantly said you need to know what you're talking about. What I mean to say is, it's not the general panacea that it could be if you were to summarize it well. In conjunction with pharmaceuticals, be careful. That's all I'm saying. Do you know that kind of way? Maybe figure out what the fuck the other things are before. Do you know that kind of way? Flip it around.
As any so-called recreational drug user will tell you, you have to understand polydrug consumption. You have to understand certain interactions. So you would understand, say, not getting piss mortal and then having your first line of ket, for example. You know, that's going to compound that effect, and you are going to not die, but you're going to have a horrible K hole and you're going to hit the ground. You know, to put certain things like alcohol and cocaine have become popular, for example. People have to be aware of the interactions of that, of the compounding negative effects of it. And they're not, because the awareness and education isn't there. So in the illicit market, it's very hard to incentivize dealers and the people that supply substances to give harm reduction education and information. Whereas for a marketplace where it's legal, you'd think that should be commonplace. But if you look at the CBD regulations in this country, it's illegal for anyone that sells CBD to make medical claims. You telling them how the hell this works violates that regulation, ergo you would be a criminal. So it's ridiculous. So I can talk about the effects and bring up all the scientific papers we want, and we can write articles and do whatever the hell we like, because I don't sell CBD. But if I were to then sell the product that I'm saying could do X, Y, and Z, the people then can't buy it from me. That breakdown in connection and trust within the person who can supply accurate research information, and then someone that can supply a clinically tested and well respected and product that carries a certain continuity and a certain consistency. That's ridiculous. So exactly that, you can see why idiots are then going, well, I've learned all of this stuff on the internet, and I've watched this and read this and seen this. I'm going to go Holland and Barrett and I'm going to cure this. And it's just like, no. And it's frustrating because you can't quite get them to understand that. I mean, one of the favorite things that me and my girlfriend now do is wherever we see Holland and Barrett's, we kind of go in and bully the staff. Not in like a horrible way. But so we'll walk around and we'll look at stuff and we'll play games like, what's the most expensive thing in the shop? And then we get to the CBD counter and we kind of go, what is this? So play a bit naive and kind of look at stuff, and then we just get irked about shit. So we're just like, look at the packaging on that. You read this? What is that? That does not say what is in it. That is poor science. That doesn't actually, just berate the stuff. And then we saw a CBG moisturizer additive. So it's a CBG derivative in a carrier oil that you then put in your moisturizer thing and you whip it up and you put it on your skin. And CBG is like antifungal and antibacterial predominantly. CBD is anti-inflammatory when used just as topicals. So we went up to sit on the counter. What will this do? And the woman and the guy sort of stood there, no one else in the shop, and they went, well, we kind of can't tell you, but what we do is the customers can come in and we make it available and they buy it. And then if you go in the review section on our website, it'll tell you what other people are using it for.
Oh my God.
So Mrs. sort of looking at it going, and this, and sort of just having the life, playing that kind of naive, but like, I should be informed. I'm a customer. You're a purveyor of a product. You should be informed on the product. Tell me about this product. And just kind of made them uncomfortable. It's just this lingering thing of just like, so what will it do? And then I kind of, I went, well, CBG has been shown at blah, blah, CBD, and just launched into like a little tirade of education information that we kind of looked at each other. And it just lingered like a fart in an elevator. And we were just like, time to leave. It's ridiculous. So again, there's people that think that they know this shit because they watched something on, did I see someone tagged correctly? I scroll through Facebook so fast these days that I just have flashes of crap. I'm sure I saw somebody tagged a post that was on Coronation Street or EastEnders or something. They're growing cannabis to extract in their own oil. It's like a story on one of the narratives at the minute.
Sure it is.
Yeah, it's so the people are then seeing that and then going, if it's on EastEnders, I can do it. They'll then put the little setup. They'll get 3 little plants and they'll go or they'll go the other route and go, I'll go Holland and Barrett. They'll try for 3 months and that will happen because they're taking a 5% piss down watered isolate product and not incorporating lifestyle changes, not incorporating a better diet, not trying to do other work to actually improve their condition or their lifestyle. You know what I mean? Or they'll go the other way, like I say, set up that goddamn grow and get raided on the second day because they forgot a carbon filter because they didn't show it on Corrie. You know what I mean? Or they forgot to, but it just shows that, and all of these people getting caught up in this system. So it's the suffering of the children on one side. It's the countless deaths of fucking old people that are getting pharmaceuticalized to death. We put them in old care homes and go, right, if we've actually found, if we give them 5 to 10% more of these things, they die 3 to 4 years earlier. But we can actually put them in a comatose system so that we can rake in all that goddamn money. So the long-term residents of care homes go fucking down. That if they don't die within the first few months of going in, they are there as a perpetual paycheck. You know what I mean? If they go in with a smidgen of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, whatever, the worsening of that is ridiculous. And that could be helped with, again, the integration of cannabis into diet, into lifestyle. If we and everything in between, it's an absurdity that they've kind of gone, we found this magic thing. And they've kind of, again, put that thin veil of bullshit over the entirety of the history of the culture of the community of this globally and gone, we found these. If you put these things together with this, it's magic. How's it magic? We don't know. You're not allowed to say. You're not allowed to ask. It's against the rules. But yeah, you can't buy it on the high street. You can buy that on the high street, but it might work, it might not. But if you want this, you have to come to us and go, yeah, it's going to cost you 20 grand a year. Yeah, it's our special magic and our magic. And it is that kind of fucking mentality. It is literally as absurd as that. They are spending millions, billions globally, collectively as an industry to market and manage and create a medical cannabis paradigm while criminalizing anybody else who has actually discovered through firsthand research, through firsthand experience and created this pathway for their entire system and industry to exist. It's beyond frustrating to me. And I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm, because of my class, because of my whiteness, because of my current position and geographical location, I can get away with the fuck I want. I can sit here every goddamn week and criticize everything. I can go into meetings with Durham police. We can organize public events. We can do all the stuff that we do and not have to worry about a consequence to it. But the reason I'm still in this fight is it's absurd. It's fucking absurd. All of these, it's a revolution that it's pulling the cork. All of this water that we're drowning in that has risen over the past 2-3 decades, we pull that cork of prohibition, drains the water. We've got a chance to rebuild. Everything can grow again in the new fertile earth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's mad. It's a case of, you know, if you buy cannabis off the street or grow your own, get your driving license taken off you. But if you have a private prescription, you can keep your driving license. And it doesn't make sense. It's like, what? Like, you know, you'll get arrested and taken to court unless you've got a private prescription. And yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. How do you know that, you know, like for somebody that vapes it or smokes it and it helps them, how did they know to go and get a private prescription for it? You know, because they've tried illegal cannabis. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
that's how they know.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that's how they know of the idea. Or again, the people that are then seeing it. When I typed your name and the word cannabis, the first 2 things were adverts for medical cannabis clinics here in the UK. So it is quite frustrating when you look at the things that they've used to then create targeted advertising to commit SEO, search engine optimization. You look at, again, the weaponization or the co-option of our language. So they're now talking about adult consumption rather than recreational. You know, I mean, they're really trying to co-opt the paradigms so that it benefits that industry first, or not even just that industry. The let's call it the bigs of the world: big pharma, big energy, big tobacco, big alcohol. They were the first players into this in North America. They put a lot of fucking money in, and then reaping that reward. Now the big tobacco companies are quite happy to publicly be like, "Yeah, we're investing in this. Yeah, we're moving this. Yeah, we're doing this." So big energy are just doing the same goddamn thing, and then pharma. So these collective monoliths, their power of going, okay, you can have this, but we want to own all of it. You want a license to grow it? You got to pay me. You want to sell it? Oh, you got to pay me for a license. You want to socially consume it? Oh, that's a social consumption license. Give me the money. You want to trade it? Oh, that's a trader's license. You know, it's going to be that ridiculous of everything that they're going to own every facet of this. And along the way, they're going to collect all of this goddamn data, scoop it up and go, right, how do we fit this back into pharmacological paradigm so that we are the gatekeepers? We are the gods again. That if you want the magic potions, you must come to us. You must beg and plead us. And maybe if we're in a good mood, we will give you the magic paper.
As I've alluded to on a previous fucking podcast, if that is what is absolutely going to happen, and it's looking likely that that's actually going to be viable, then I wish they'd just get the fuck on with it. Hurry the fuck up. Stop being lazy bastards. Come on. Do you know what I mean? There are people fucking waiting.
I don't think it's laziness. I think it's the image in my head there was like a Windows 95 loading bar. You know, like glitchy bars. And it's like, so right, we've got the hemp industry here, right? We've strangleholded there. We've put CBD through the FSA. We've got that industry, right? Everyone's saying medical cannabis now. Beautiful. They're all talking our language. Good. We've got that. And they're just putting the pieces together, and it's the blocks are just falling into place for them.
It's the old...
And as soon as they hit that 100%, they're suddenly, you'll see the headline, conservative government is to decriminalize cannabis, is to allow blah, blah, blah. And it'll be through, they've vertically integrated everything.
Yeah.
Jobs for the boys. You look at, what was it, 95% of the contracts that were issued during COVID were non-contested contracts to people with familial or personal business links to the Conservative Party. Yeah. You don't think the same goddamn thing is happening now? What we were talking about before with our private health system is 2 birds, 1 stone. If these fuckers can dismantle the NHS and make themselves money and become the gatekeepers and regulators to all of this, they've won the game. That's king me. That's drafts, and they got everybody in there at the end done. That's what I feel truly in my heart they're working towards. Because if they break that system, you break the UK, you own Europe, mate. I know we've moved out of Europe, but once you understand the economics and how the financing is going to work with their companies being floated on the London Stock Exchange, if you're the big boy in this little island, you're a huge player on the continent of Europe, which is larger than the entirety of North America, Canada, America, and Mexico. Just something to ponder.
It's not larger than Russia, though, is it?
I don't know the population of Russia. Well, in terms of surface area,
surface area.
I meant population density, but okay, I'll give you that. I'll concede that.
I mean, yeah, that's fine. And you have, you painted a very bleak picture there. But just to add to it,
potentially bleak.
Potentially bleak.
Only potentially.
Potentially probable, whatever. It's like along with that extremist. It's not extremist. It's the wrong word. Like bleak. We'll stick with bleak. Along with that bleak view, will probably come a breaking point socially where people will actually be forced to unify. Finally. Stop being fucking keyboard warriors and actually get out in the fucking street, because it doesn't actually matter in the end of the fucking day. If that level, I've won Europe, I've achieved everything, I control it, I am the gatekeeper. Well, how many of you are there? Because there's a fuckload more of us. Do you know that kind of way? Let's hope you have fucking sentient robot guards at that point. So I feel like I'm being really ridiculous. Sorry.
No, you raise an interesting kind of idea in that systems in industry are made up by individuals, and most individuals are out. Let's call them our side of the fence. They have to live to survive. They don't have passive incomes. They don't have inheritance. They don't have some mechanism by which they can continue. The vast majority of people are 1 or 2 paychecks away from poverty. That if they lose their job, the lack of savings they have, the compounding debt from interest and everything else, they'll be crippled very fast. And they know this. This is part of the strategy of neoliberalistic politics, is to get people indebted up to the eyeballs because it keeps them forever in servitude. So it's a paradigm that they've got very used to. Whereas the attempt to use that same sort of thing into the medical application of, say, cannabis, for example, doesn't kind of work. What they're trying to do here is then go, here, you've got to impoverish yourself for this. You've got to then work to make this. When you look at the margins, when you understand that the base amount of THC and CBD in any of these products, how much it actually costs to derive and create that versus that end product. If we can remove that capitalist mechanism, reduce that neoliberalistic intention on it, if we can go to the idea of, well, this does this and it'll cost this, do this. There are far other mechanisms by which they can make their fucking money. It doesn't need to be off the backs of the suffering, the most vulnerable.
Very well said.
Do you know what I mean? There are people in this world that can afford and will go, I want to spend $4,000 on two grams of an extract because it was ran through a gold-plated system and it was, done by girls in bikinis and it was flown across the world on a private. Do you know what I mean? People will buy into that, and that's the margins where you make it. Luxury should be what you're paying for. Absurdity is what it is. So when you're paying for that higher end of product that costs this to make, but because I put my goddamn label on it, it's 5 times more expensive. You're paying for that. You're not paying for the bag. You're paying for the label and for the image that it gives you, for that facade, for that little thing that you can staple onto your exterior. And this shouldn't be true then of cannabis as a medical thing. If it has a legitimate medical need and can only be can only be utilized through derived products into oils like this, then that mechanism shouldn't have a profit margin. And to be insular, absolutely insular, diamonds and sauce, you want all of these kind of things. Yeah, you pay for it because it's not a necessity. It's an accessory.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be the separation. If they're going to continue with this medical cannabis paradigm, they need to go, right, actually, you can take these drivable pills and we've added it with this compound and this drug, and therefore it now comes with a list of side effects this long. If that is the only mechanism by which you can administer it and it will help with symptomology and reduction of the condition, then hell yeah, I'll back that. But if you're going to say that's the only route to access and anyone using the raw plant is a criminal, I'm going to continue to rebel against it.
Yeah. I agree.
I think that's a wonderful note to maybe wrap this up.
Self-praise is no praise, brother.
Okay. I see what it is. I suppose I've got one more actually final question. It's kind of the question that we ask all guests, although I've kind of found that asking it to people like yourself or exactly the mothers that are in the situation it's a very difficult one to answer. And the final question we normally ask is, what does the future hold for you?
Oh, what does the future hold? What does the future hold? Hopefully over £1,000 a month richer. Then we don't have to pay for this bloody oil. Yeah, what does the future hold? Hopefully Murray is just stays healthy, you know.
Yeah.
Because my life just revolves around Murray. Now I've got 2 older kids, and like everything's about Murray. Yeah, hopefully everything just evens out, and yeah, everybody's just happy and healthy.
Hope so too.
Yeah.
Really do. I really, really do.
It's a good hope and aspiration. I did just think of something. I know quite a lot of you guys out there maybe skirting on the edge of the law and maybe selling various things and doing whatever you're doing to get by. And I'm just speculating, allegedly. But if you would happen to have a few extra quid that you could throw into the donation pot for this, we will put a link in the description below for fundraising. And like I say, £1,000 a month, obviously, to yourself when you've got a full-time job in just caring for him, let alone having to care for yourself, then actually having to find the goddamn money, then having to maintain a household and everything else on top of that. You can't gain that. Whereas for somebody that's shot in 8s of something that they've grown, especially if they're then selling it for 50, 60 quid, I'm sure you guys wouldn't mind losing 50 quid here, 100 quid there a month, 10 of you, 20 of you guys.
Not a bad idea.
It's a good way to clear your conscience. That's all I'm saying, folks. You can do it through through PayPal and other ways for your protection. All I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's it. Honestly, that's the hope I see is the old school mechanism. That's what it was for a long time in a lot of places. They sold to the people who wanted to get high, and they were happy to pay that price because it meant that the people who needed it got it cheaper. And that's the mechanism we need to go back to. We could fund all of this tomorrow if they just legitimized the adult consumption sales. Mm-hmm. So it would be a blip. It would be less than 0.0%. That would be a full subsidized marketplace for it, because guess what? We smoke a shitload of weed in this country. The legality of it hasn't prevented us from doing it. Punitive mechanism hasn't stopped us from doing it. All of the propaganda and reefer madness under the sun hasn't stopped us doing it. So they may as well give us the opportunity so that when I go to a nice coffee shop down in Durham and I smoke a big fat blunt, part of that is helping your son. That seems logical to me. And the 100%. Fact that we can't get there, I don't.
It's mad, like, isn't it? It's actually madness. It's like, come on to fuck.
I know, you just want to scream and go and shake people and go, come on, sort this out.
Yeah. Really, really do.
Yeah, well, yeah. And on that note, I'm going to go shake some people in the street. Karen, thank you very much for coming on and being a guest.
Thank you for having me on. Both of you.
We just lost you. Oh, are you back? Are you back?
Oh, I'm here.
You're back.
Have you got me?
We got you.
Some frozen. You two froze. It froze, yeah. Me on.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
We're back in real time. Well, yeah, again, thank you very much for coming. Folks, if you enjoyed this episode, please do check us out on patreon.com/Simpa Life, where you can help for less than a cup of coffee a month to help us keep the lights on at this place and to help us advance this project. We are trying and we'll be looking at options to fundraise to help get us to Product Earth and Paradise Gardens later on in the year, which is going to be amazing. We're in conversation with quite a few of the artists who will be headlining these events. So musicians galore are going to be coming to the podcast over the summer. So please do help where you can. Check out the fundraising as well, please, for Karen and to help subsidize Murray's oil access. Karen, I wish you the best of luck with your fight with the NHS. I seriously hope that that this issue can be resolved. And as always, folks, check us out at simpalife.com and everywhere at /to Simpa Life. Peace and love.
Bye.